All right, welcome back to another episode of Mainly Hoops. Hope you guys are liking the content. Be sure to subscribe and like the video below. Today we're talking about North Carolina versus Kansas. Huge non-conference matchup to start the season. It's a late notice, but it's going to be a whiteout in the Dean Dome, so sparked by Caleb Wilson. So it should be a really high energy environment, and I'm excited. Cody, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for this game too. I'm excited these are two teams that have been kind of intrigued by their off seasons, and there are some areas that I want to see perform really on both ends of the floor. For Kansas, it's I want to see how well this defense can perform. I think they have very good individual defenders on this roster. And obviously, I mean, you could start really at any position, but I always would like to highlight Flory Badunga as a breakout candidate at the 5 position. I think he's going to be a great rim protector this year. And Bryson Tiller to go along with him in the front court. It looks like he's going to be the backup 5. Those two guys can kind of play together, and they're very good like movers in space. And that's kind of the theme with this entire roster is they're very good lateral movers, and they're just great athletes in general. And then like with Melvin Council, he's just an absolute ball hawk. He was one of the best on ball defenders in the country at 6'4", good wingspan, really good athlete. And Darryn Peterson himself is a very good defender. I don't think a lot of people talk about what he can do on the defensive side. Just a great athlete with good tools to go along with obviously his scoring ability. But yeah, this is a really good defensive roster, and I'm kind of intrigued to see how UNC kind of navigates around it. Like Kansas can do a lot of different things, and they can kind of take away the off-ball shooters a little bit with their athleticism. But ultimately, I'm kind of just interested to see how this UNC offense operates. We've talked about it a little bit in the offseason. Like they didn't like overwhelm in the portal or in the in the recruiting ranks with a ton of talent, like compared to what they spent. But I think this is a roster that fits extremely well together. Like we mentioned, and obviously in the best bets episode as well. I do like UNC to win this game, but I do think there are like Seth Trimble and Caleb Wilson on the ball are going to be very crucial here, and to go along with guys that are very interchangeable as secondary playmakers and off ball shooters and Kyan Evans and Luka Bogovac. I think it's going to be a very hard offense to guard, and it's going to happen by committee more often than not. Obviously, they have guys that can kind of take over portions of games, but ultimately, I think this is a team that can have a different guy get 15 or 16 a night. And I wouldn't really be surprised there at all. Like I also really like Henry Vasar in the front court as a guy that can operate as a dribble handoff hub a little bit and role as a pop man or even a little bit over the top. So I'm very interested by the skill sets here on the offensive end, and I'm just kind of interested to see the chess match in which this UNC offense operates against the KU defense.
Yeah, Marcus, what about you? What are some of your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the other night we saw Darryn Peterson kind of steal the show in the first half of their game against Green Bay. I think he had all 21 of his points in the first half. So, obviously playing Green Bay, not a fantastic team, beat them by 43. I know Cody's thoughts on Doug Gottlieb.
That's a freaking good program. I don't know what you're talking about.
But no, I mean, I think this is a game where Darryn Peterson's really going to have to show up. We talked about all off season, the offensive talent of Kansas is a little bit lacking, especially in the creation department. I think Darryn Peterson, a lot's going to fall on his plate in this game. And this is one of those games that can really, like, if he somehow can, like, lead Kansas to a win on the road at Carolina, obviously it's a 2-point spread. It's not like it would be that shocking. But if he can find a way to do it, this is one of those games that I think, like, solidifies him as the top pick, in my opinion, as we've talked about in the NBA draft. He's going to have to really show out in this game, I think. Hit a lot of tough shots. He's going to be playing in a tough environment to play in for your second game of your career. You played Green Bay on night one, and now you're following that up with a game at Carolina. So not an easy thing to do, when you're the focal point of the offense. On the defensive end, they do have a bunch of guys there. The front court's really good. As you mentioned, Melvin Council, Trey White, solid defender, Darryn Peterson, of course. They're all good on that end, but I am interested to see how UNC plays offense. We talked about like Bogovac. I was glad to see that he was able to get eligible for the game on Monday, because he was a guy in the offseason, I think in the ACC portal or the ACC preview, I had deemed him my breakout player. So he's a guy I'm really intrigued by. The other night he played 20 minutes, had 10 points. I think this is a game where we might need to see him a little bit more, his offensive skill set, to kind of space things out, make shots for this team, kind of maybe provide another creator against this Kansas defense that seems to be so good, right? I think this is going to be a really fun game, though. We're at the Dean Dome, week 1 of college basketball. It doesn't get much better.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm with you on a lot of those points. I'm really excited to see to see what kind of Kansas's role players can bring to this game. Like Cole Rosario starting for them was a bit of a surprise, I think, to most people. It certainly was to me. He was a super late reclass. UNC was one of the schools he was considering, and I think it's going to come down like to a lot of those guys. Darryn Peterson, is awesome as he is, I think he's the best player in the country. Ultimately, he can only do so much, and it is his first big time road game in a pretty hostile environment. So I'm really curious to see, and I think it's really going to fall on a lot of those other role players to make shots and really going to have to make a big step. Yeah. So back to you, Cody. What do you think? What is the key to the game for North Carolina to walk out of the Dean Dome with a win?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is for them to kind of just switch up coverages against Darryn Peterson. I think you have to make him feel kind of uncomfortable. I don't think they can kind of stick in their base drop coverage that they like to play with their bigs. It's almost like if you can get a little bit more aggressive in ball screens, like if you play a little bit smaller, like when Vasar goes to the bench, I would like to see them be a little bit more aggressive, either like I would assume there's going to be more switch involved, maybe a little bit more high hedge involved there, and kind of get the ball out of his hands, force him to make decisions as a passer. And then like it's kind of a back and forth for me. Like, does UNC want to stick to their scheme, let Darryn Peterson score 30 and take away everybody else, and they can still be okay in that regard, out of the game and force these other guys to beat you? Because like I'm not all that high on these KU pieces as off-ball shooters. Like Melvin Council throughout his career has proven to be a not so great shooter. Dawson's a good shooter, but he didn't really play that much in game number 1. And like guys like Cole Rosario, and like Cole Rosario is he's still trying to find his way, I think, as an offensive player and as a shooter. Like as many physical tools as he has, like he's 6'7" with he's got a long wingspan as well. He just has good physical tools in general. And then guys like Marco Jackson and Trey White have kind of proven to not be all that great either. So, I mean, I personally think that the better way of going about this is kind of forcing the ball out of Peterson's hands a little bit more often and forcing these other options to beat you. And I think they're going to be able to do that. And I think, and like I mentioned with UNC's offense, I'm more just intrigued to see how they navigate against this Kansas defense, because it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough to do. Kansas can throw a lot of different things at you with all the athletes that they have. But overall, I think, like people mentioned, like great offense beats great defense. And I think that can kind of stand out here with all the options that UNC has.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what personnel they throw at Peterson, because unlike last year, they actually have the pieces to switch it up. I'm quite certain Stevenson is going to get some time matching up on him, which maybe isn't laterally as quick, but has length and a lot of size. Trimble's a guy who can kind of get up in you, maybe a little undersized compared to Peterson, but Caleb Wilson's another dynamic defender. I think they just have options to switch it up and frustrate Peterson and just make things difficult for him. So now to the other side.
I agree. I think they start with Trimble on him, and then maybe throw a little bit of Wilson at him, like bother them with Trimble, like kind of force the offense a little bit higher up. And I think that might be the better proposition, at least to start the game, and then we'll see. Throwing different bodies at him, I think, would be a good call.
Yeah, one of the reasons I do like Stevenson going at him instead of Wilson to start is I like Wilson off the ball a lot more. I like him in the help as a shot blocker more than Stevenson. I also think he's more dynamic to recover. But all three of those guys, I think, have potential to kind of muck things up for him. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And now kind of on the other side, Marcus, what are kind of the keys to the game for Kansas to walk out with a huge road win to start their season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of just piggybacks on that, which is I do think like UNC is going to change up coverages. We kind of talked about it a lot in the Kansas team preview, how we expect teams to throw a lot of different things at him, whether it's, blitzing ball screens or, hard hedging, just doing a lot of different things, switching, throwing different bodies at him. But I think it just is going to be, can the others do enough in this game? Can the others make enough shots? I think this is a game where they might need to see more Jaden Dawson. Just like he played 12 minutes last game. I think they're really going to need the off ball shooting that he typically provides. Granted, he shot 1 for 5 the other night, but he's obviously proven to be a better shooter than that in his career. I think they're going to need him. And then they're going to need they need Cole Rosario to shoot better than 1 for 6 from 3. Trey White gave him 1 the other night. I think they're just really going to need Jaden Dawson to make shots in this game and Rosario as well. It's just going to be too difficult, too much to ask, I think, for Darryn Peterson against a UNC team that sets up well, I think, to defend him. And just throw a lot of different things at him, especially when the supporting cast of Kansas's offense isn't really there. And then on the defensive end, I think for Kansas, it's just, being who they are, right? They've been they project to be really good on this end. They need to defensive rebound. They need to keep the ball in front, force UNC to take tough ones, right? It's all like cliche stuff, but they have the front court, I think, to be able to protect the rim at a high level and rebound the basketball, right? So I think that's really the key for Kansas. It's not going to be easy though. You're going into enemy territory. It's not going to be an easy place to get a win.
No, especially I think with how many newcomers they have this year. I mean, Melvin Council coming from smaller school. He's never played in an environment like road games, start the season at a Dean Dome. Peterson being a freshman, got a lot of guys who are just going to be in a different environment. So any other final thoughts you guys have on this game?
Nothing for me. I'm just kind of excited to see. These are two teams that I've been intrigued about, especially intrigued about what they did in the offseason for the most part. So I'm kind of excited to see that come to fruition and in their first real tests of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just throw my game pick out. I think UNC wins. I think it's been pretty evident, but just going to throw the game pick out there before we wrap things up.
Yeah, I'll do the same. I'll say UNC wins 75-68. I'll throw a score out there just to make myself look good, right?
Sure. I like it. We can come back. I want all the comments coming back to this if that's the final score. So, well, we hope everyone enjoyed this video. It's going to be an interesting game regardless of the result. So be sure to like and subscribe below.